I first met Laura at a friend's housewarming party. It was one of those gatherings where you don't expect to meet anyone particularly special, and yet, there she was, standing by the fireplace, radiant and smiling. Our eyes met, and I felt a spark, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. She seemed to be the embodiment of everything I'd ever wanted. Kind, intelligent, and beautiful. We struck up a conversation, finding common interests almost instantly. She loved art, as did I, and we shared a passion for travel. By the end of the night, I was convinced that meeting her was fate. We exchanged numbers, and soon after, we were inseparable. Our courtship was a whirlwind of romantic dinners, weekend getaways, and deep late-night conversations. I fell hard and fast. Laura seemed genuinely enamored with me, always affectionate and attentive. When I proposed to her after a year of dating, she said yes without hesitation, tears of joy streaming down her face. It felt like the happiest moment of my life. Our wedding was a grand affair, attended by family and friends who showered us with blessings and gifts. I was a successful businessman, and Laura had a stable career in marketing. We pooled our resources and bought a beautiful house in a quaint suburb. Life seemed perfect. We soon had 2 children, a boy named Michael and a girl named Emily. Parenthood brought us even closer, or so I thought. We spent our weekends at parks and our holidays on family trips. I adored my children and took pride in being a devoted husband and father. Laura and I often talked about our dreams for the future, our plans for the children, and our growing ambitions. But as the years went by, subtle changes began to creep into our marriage. Laura seemed less interested in spending time with me. She started taking longer to come home from work, often citing late meetings or sudden projects. At first, I didn't think much of it. I trusted her completely. After all, she was my wife, the mother of my children. One night she came home late again. I was in the living room going through some work emails when she walked in, looking a bit disheveled. I asked her about her day, and she gave me a tired smile, saying it had been particularly busy. I wanted to believe her, but a gnawing feeling in my gut told me something was off. Over the next few months, I noticed more signs. She was frequently on her phone, texting someone with a smile on her face. She would often excuse herself to take calls in another room, her voice hushed and secretive. Our conversations became strained, and she seemed distant, lost in thoughts she wouldn't share with me. One evening, as I was helping Michael with his homework, I glanced at Laura sitting across the room, her face lit up by her phone screen. She was smiling, a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time. I felt a pang of jealousy and suspicion. I decided I needed to know what was going on. The next day, while she was in the shower, I took her phone and went through her messages. My heart sank as I read through a series of texts from a man named David. They were filled with flirtatious exchanges, plans to meet, and confessions of love. The betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt nauseous, my mind reeling from the revelation. I confronted Laura that night. She didn't deny it. Instead, she broke down in tears, admitting to the affair and begging for forgiveness. She claimed it had been a mistake, a moment of weakness. But I could see through her tears. There was a hint of relief in her eyes, as if she was finally free from the burden of her secret. I was devastated. The woman I loved, the mother of my children, had betrayed me. My trust shattered, and I felt a deep, searing pain that I couldn't escape. I couldn't understand how she could do this to me, to our family. I had given her everything, and yet it wasn't enough. Despite her pleas, I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. The trust was gone, replaced by a void filled with anger and sadness. We tried counseling, but it felt forced and insincere. The love we once had seemed irreparably damaged. Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue. Divorce was the only option left. It was a long, painful process, filled with arguments over custody, assets, and everything we had built together. In the end, we reached a settlement, but the scars remained. As I moved into a small apartment, I reflected on our time together. The love I thought was genuine had been tainted by betrayal. Laura's desire for material gain and excitement had overshadowed our relationship. I realized that I had been blind, caught up in the illusion of a perfect marriage. I focused on my children, trying to give them the stability and love they needed. It wasn't easy, but they were my anchor, my reason to keep going. Over time, I learned to accept what had happened, though the pain never fully went away. The experience taught me a harsh lesson about trust and the fragile nature of relationships. I became more guarded, wary of letting anyone too close. But I also learned to appreciate the moments of genuine connection and love that life offered, however fleeting they might be. In the end, I found solace in my children and the simple joys of life. Laura moved on, as did I, but the memories of our time together, both good and bad, remained etched in my heart. It was a chapter of my life that shaped me, a reminder of the importance of honesty, trust, and the true meaning of love. It was during a rainy Sunday afternoon, as the kids played with their toys in the living room, that I truly began to contemplate what had gone wrong. What had driven Laura to betray our marriage? Was it something I had done, or was it something deeper within her? The questions tormented me, and I sought answers in every corner of my mind. Laura had always been ambitious. Even in the early days of our relationship, she spoke of her dreams of traveling the world, owning a beautiful home, and living a life of luxury. I admired her drive and shared many of those dreams. However, looking back, I realized there were moments when her ambitions seemed to overshadow our love. She had a taste for the finer things in life: expensive jewelry, designer clothes, lavish vacations. I was more than willing to provide these, thinking they made her happy. But perhaps, in my quest to fulfill her desires, I had overlooked the possibility that our relationship was built on something far more superficial than I had imagined. As our financial situation improved, Laura's expectations grew. She wanted a bigger house, a fancier car, more exotic trips. I obliged, believing that these were the things that kept our marriage strong. But it was never enough. There was always a new goal, a new desire. The more I gave, the more she wanted. And in the process, I lost sight of the simpler, more profound aspects of our relationship. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, I sat alone in my apartment, nursing a glass of whiskey. The silence was heavy, filled with the echoes of memories and regrets. I thought about the man Laura had been seeing, David. Who was he? What did he offer her that I couldn't? Was it merely the thrill of something new, or was there something fundamentally lacking in our marriage? I couldn't bring myself to confront David. The thought of facing the man who had come between us was unbearable. Instead, I poured all my energy into my work and my children, hoping to find some semblance of peace in the routine. But the questions lingered, gnawing at my soul. The months passed, and the divorce was finalized. Laura moved into a new apartment, and we shared custody of the kids. Michael and Emily adapted to the new arrangement better than I had expected. They were resilient, finding joy in the little things and adjusting to the changes with remarkable grace. I envied their ability to move forward without the weight of betrayal hanging over them. One day, as I was cleaning out some old boxes, I stumbled upon a journal Laura had kept during the early years of our marriage. It was filled with entries about our dreams, our plans, and her thoughts on our relationship. As I read through the pages, I realized that she had once loved me deeply. Her words were filled with hope and passion, but as time went on, the entries became more about material aspirations and less about our bond. It became clear that Laura had changed, but so had I. I had become so focused on providing for her and the kids that I had neglected the emotional and spiritual aspects of our relationship. In my quest to fulfill her desires, I had lost sight of what truly mattered: our connection, our love. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you. I reached out to a therapist, hoping to find some clarity and healing. Through our sessions, I began to understand the complex dynamics that had led to the breakdown of our marriage. Laura's infidelity was a symptom of deeper issues, both within herself and within our relationship. She had sought validation and excitement outside our marriage because she felt unfulfilled, despite everything I had provided. In therapy, I also confronted my own shortcomings. I had equated love with material provision, believing that as long as I could give Laura what she wanted, our marriage would thrive. But love is more than gifts and luxuries. It is about connection, understanding, and mutual respect. I had failed to nurture these aspects, and in doing so, I had contributed to the chasm that grew between us. As I continued my sessions, I began to heal. I forgave Laura, not because I condoned her actions, but because I needed to let go of the anger and pain that were consuming me. I also forgave myself, recognizing that I had done my best, even if it hadn't been enough. I focused on rebuilding my life, finding joy in the little things and strengthening my bond with Michael and Emily. They were my anchor, my reason to keep going. We created new routines and traditions, finding comfort in each other's presence. Laura and I remained civil, for the sake of the children. We communicated about their needs and shared responsibilities, but our interactions were cordial, devoid of the warmth that once defined our relationship. She seemed happy with her new life, and I accepted that. I wished her well, genuinely hoping that she found what she was looking for. Years went by and the pain of betrayal faded into a distant memory. I met new people, formed new connections, and even dated occasionally. But I was more cautious, more guarded. I had learned to value emotional depth over material gain, seeking partners who shared my values and understood the importance of genuine love. In the early years after the divorce, I occasionally found myself wondering about Laura. She had moved on with David, and from what little I knew, they seemed to be doing well. This thought often led me into a spiral of introspection, questioning what David offered that I could not. Was it the thrill of the forbidden, or something deeper? I reached a point where I needed to find answers, not from Laura or David, but from within myself. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, I sat down with a bottle of wine and my thoughts. I replayed every significant moment of my marriage, trying to piece together where things had gone wrong. I recalled the moments when Laura and I had genuinely connected, our early dates, the birth of our children, the shared laughter and dreams. Those memories were real, and they were ours. But so too were the times when her eyes wandered, when she seemed distant and unreachable. I began to understand that her betrayal wasn't solely about me or our marriage. It was also about her own unfulfilled desires and ambitions. One afternoon, while picking up Michael and Emily from school, I unexpectedly ran into David. He was there to pick up his own kids. Seeing him up close, he appeared ordinary, not the villain I had built up in my mind. Our eyes met, and for a moment there was an awkward silence. "Hi, I'm David," he finally said, extending a hand. I shook it, my mind racing with unspoken questions. "James," I replied. "Listen, I know this is awkward, but I just want to say, I'm sorry for everything," he said, sincerity evident in his voice. "It wasn't fair to you or your family." His apology took me by surprise. It wasn't what I had expected, and it disarmed me. "Thanks," I managed to say. It's in the past now." We exchanged a few more polite words before parting ways. That brief encounter with David left me with mixed emotions. On one hand, it was a reminder of the betrayal that had shattered my life. On the other, his genuine remorse offered a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. As time went on, I continued to rebuild my life. I focused on my work, finding solace in its structure and demands. My children remained my top priority, and I made sure to be there for them, both physically and emotionally. Their laughter, their growth, their resilience became my greatest joys. I also started to open myself up to the possibility of new relationships. It wasn't easy. I was wary, cautious, and sometimes even cynical. But I knew that holding on to the past would only prevent me from finding future happiness. I met a woman named Sarah through a mutual friend. She was kind, intelligent, and had a warmth that was immediately comforting. We started dating, taking things slow. I was honest with her about my past, about the betrayal and the pain it had caused. She listened without judgment, offering understanding and empathy. Sarah and I grew closer over time. She taught me that trust could be rebuilt, that love could be found even after the deepest of wounds. With her, I felt a sense of peace and companionship that I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't the same as with Laura. It was different, more mature, grounded in mutual respect and understanding. Life settled into a new normal. I co-parented with Laura, ensuring that Michael and Emily felt loved and supported by both of us. We attended their school events, birthdays, and holidays together, maintaining a semblance of unity for their sake. Laura and I also found a way to communicate more openly. There were no lingering resentments, no hidden agendas. We had both moved on, finding our own paths. She seemed genuinely happy with David, and I had Sarah by my side, offering a love that was pure and genuine. One day, Laura approached me after a parent-teacher meeting. "James, can we talk?" "Sure," I replied, curious about what she had to say. "I just wanted to thank you," she began, her voice soft. "For everything. For being such a great father to our kids. For forgiving me, even if it took time." Her words took me by surprise. "I did it for Michael and Emily," I said. "They deserve to see us getting along." "I know," she said, looking down. "But I also know I hurt you deeply. And I'm sorry. Truly." For the first time, I saw the weight of regret in her eyes. "We've both made mistakes, Laura. What's important is that we've moved on and are doing our best for the kids." She nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. "Thank you, James." Reflecting on the journey, I realized how far I had come. The betrayal had been a turning point, a catalyst for growth and self-discovery. It had forced me to confront my own flaws, to understand the complexities of love and trust. It had been a painful lesson, but a valuable one. I had learned to value emotional depth over material gain, to seek connections that were genuine and meaningful. I had found happiness in the simple joys of life, in the laughter of my children, in the warmth of Sarah's embrace. I had rebuilt my life, piece by piece, stronger and more resilient than before. Michael and Emily continued to thrive, their bond with both Laura and me unbroken. They had witnessed the struggles and the healing, and I hoped that it had taught them about the importance of love, forgiveness, and resilience. Years later, as I stood in the backyard of our new home, watching Sarah play with Michael and Emily, I felt a profound sense of contentment. Life had come full circle. The pain of the past was a distant memory, replaced by the love and joy of the present. I had found my way back to happiness, not through material gain, but through genuine connections and heartfelt love. Laura's betrayal had been a devastating blow, but it had also been a lesson, a reminder that true happiness comes from within, from the people who love you for who you are, not what you can provide. As I looked at my children and Sarah, I knew that I had finally found my place, my peace. Life wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was mine, and for that, I was grateful. The years passed, and the lessons of my journey stayed with me. I continued to cherish the simple joys, the moments of genuine connection that define true happiness. Michael and Emily grew into remarkable individuals, their resilience and kindness a testament to the love and stability they had known. Sarah and I built a life together, filled with laughter, understanding, and unwavering support. We faced challenges as all couples do, but we did so with a foundation of trust and respect. Our love was strong, grounded in the lessons of the past and the hope for the future. Laura and I remained connected through our children, our interactions cordial and respectful. She had found her own path, and I wished her well. The bitterness of the past had faded, replaced by a sense of acceptance and understanding. Looking back, I realized that the journey had been one of growth and transformation. The betrayal had been a catalyst for change, forcing me to confront my own flaws and to seek a deeper understanding of love and happiness. It had been a painful chapter, but it had led to a life that was richer and more meaningful. As I stood on the porch, watching the sunset with Sarah by my side, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had its ups and downs, its moments of joy and sorrow, but through it all, I had found my way back to happiness. And for that, I was truly thankful.